Rock mechanics is the theoretical and applied science of behavior of rock. It is that branch of mechanics which is concerned with the response of rock to the field of its environment. These techniques apply to surface excavation as well as underground. It has an important role in mining, planning and designing, vice versa, selection of mining methods, optimum slope angle and design of support system, drilling and blasting parameters. Rock mechanics is a budding branch of mining engineering and geosciences, which in today's context has been gaining wide attention, momentum and acceptance by the mining fraternity. Rock masses invariably are heterogeneous and vary in their engineering properties and are intersected persistently by discontinuity planes. It is therefore a challenge to create realistic simulations of excavation in rock, which is not only unpredictable but also very complex, as there are no simplistic assumptions by which rock mass diversities could be explained. The present scenario of rapidly expanding mining and civil engineering sectors call for scientific approach in formulating designs of open cast, underground and civil excavations. Recent years have seen numerical modeling techniques and software replacing the traditional methods of rock excavation design. Dealing profusely on topics related to application of rock mechanics in open cast and underground mining operations, this chapter throws insights about the techniques of rock mechanics and their utilization in improving productivity and safety in mines, aimed at providing a holistic content about rock mechanics principles and their applications in safe and systematic mining. This chapter attempts to elaborate not only on the fundamentals of rock mechanics, but also expatiates in detail the topics such as rock mass classification, slope stability and application of rock mechanics in open cast and underground mines. The discipline of rock mechanics has metamorphosed from rudimentary form in its recent years to an advanced branch of study. Keeping in tandem with the transformation, it is believed that this chapter will enable broadening the understanding of excavation design, planning of open cast and underground mine, and the scientific principles that govern such concepts, which would further engender improved recovery of minerals with safety imperatives duly in place. This chapter is intended to provide a basic understanding of the engineering principles used in the analysis of rock materials, when these materials are intended to be used for an engineering purpose. These principles form the foundation of the science of rock mechanics and have been widely adopted and used. Rock basics. A. Engineering uses. Rock is used for engineering purposes in two primary ways. First, as a building material items such as cut stones, beams, support columns, decorative panels, etc. Each student can envision examples where rock has been used in one of these ways. Second, as a foundation. Knowing and understanding basic rock properties will allow structures to be founded correctly, so the required support will be there. Rock measurements. The physical characteristics of a rock mass are a fundamental geologic property and are extremely important to engineers. Analytical data on these characteristics are generally derived in two ways. First, laboratory measures are generally referred to as rock properties and are acquired using small samples taken from the field site and analyzed in a laboratory setting. Second, field scale measures, most often referred to as rock mass properties, and are descriptions of the bulk strength properties of the rock mass. The natures of these properties are governed primarily by discontinuities or planes of weakness that are present in the rock mass. Examples of discontinuities are fractures, bedding planes, faults, etc. The measured distance between fractures, bedding planes, and other structural features are also important when collecting field scale data. From an engineering standpoint, there is a difference between a rock and a stone. There is also a difference between soil and drift. Rock is used to denote the mass of material in situ. It is a part of the bedrock and has not been moved or disturbed. Stone is used to denote rock material that has been removed from its bedrock location. In the same way, soil refers to that material naturally in place, and dirt is most often used to define soil that has been removed and is or has been transported. 2. Rock properties. A. Specific gravity. This term describes the weight of a volume of rock with respect to an equal volume of water which weighs 1 gram per cubic centimeter. By weighing equal volumes of water and different rocks, a specific gravity, that is Sg, for that rock can be determined. A specific gravity is reported as a dimensionless number. B. Mass density. This is derived by multiplying the specific gravity by the density of water, specified as 1000 kg per cubic meter. C. Rock strength. It is a measure of the strength of a rock mass when subjected to any one or a combination of three primary forces, which are 1. Compressive stress. This stress consists of two opposing forces acting on a rock, which decreases the volume of the rock per unit area. Compressive strength is the maximum force that can be applied to a rock sample without breaking it. Units of stress are either reported in pounds per square inch, that is PSI in English units, or newtons per square meter. Tensile strength. Rocks placed in tension will show a decrease in the total volume of the rock per unit area due to forces directed outward, opposite in action. Tensile strength for a rock is usually much lower than its compressive strength. That is, rocks are most likely to fall under tension well before they would fall under compression. Thus, it is very important to know the stress regime a rock will be subjected to when used in an engineering project. Most rock materials are never placed in a situation where tension is the primary force. Shear strength. Shearing action is caused by two forces acting in opposite directions along a plane of weakness, that is fracture, fault, bedding plane, etc. That is inclined at some angle to the forces. The result is a force couple which effectively tears the material. D. Elasticity. This property describes the ability of rock material to rebound to its original shape after an applied stress is relieved or removed. While under stress, rock material often deforms, and when the load is removed, it is possible that not all of the deformation will or can be restored, particularly when the load was excessively heavy. There are two ranges used to describe deformation of the rock. First, elastic deformation. It occurs when all of the deformation caused by the stress is restored upon its release. Second, plastic deformation. When stress that is below a critical threshold value is released, all of the deformation is restored. However, if the applied stress exceeds the threshold value, which differs for various materials and rock types, permanent deformation results due to the load. This means that when the load is removed, there is a permanent alteration to the original shape of the rock or material. This may or may not be a critical concern in an engineering project. E. Strain. It is a property that is somewhat related to elasticity. Materials that are subjected to a load, whether it is compressive, tensile, or shear, will deform and either stretch or shrink in length. This action is referred to as strain and is described mathematically as E equals to dl divided by L, where L is length and dl is the change in length. The ratio between stress and strain is referred to as the modules of elasticities or Young's modulus and is denoted as E. Mathematically, E equals to P upon A equals to S dl divided by L. The last torque strength parameters we will explore is a property that describes the amount of lateral extension or strain of a material that is under a vertical or axial strain. Lateral strain equals to dB upon B, axial strain dl upon L, where B is in terms of lateral dimensions. This ratio is designated M or Poisson's ratio. M varies in natural rock from between 0.1 to 0.5. One example of the use of Poisson's ratio is in the analysis of the propagation of an energy wave generated by an earthquake. The choice of an underground mining method must be tailored to the ground conditions. If the mining operation is to be successful, the emphasis should be put upon objectively assessing suitable mining methods and choosing the method most compatible with ground conditions. Block caving. Block caving is one of the lowest cost bulk underground mining methods. It is because of this a detailed rock mechanics assessment of the ore body must be completed to determine its suitability. The principal considerations in determining whether or not an ore body is suitable for block caving are local geology, rock strength, hydrology, pre-mine rock stress, ore body geometry, and characteristics of the capping rock. A qualified mine engineer should be involved in order to gather and interpret the data used in making the final decisions regarding the capability of an ore body. Mine planning efforts for block caving projects should involve engineers with practical experience in the parameters that are under consideration for each particular project. Extensive experience in evaluating cutoff grades and ore reserves for potential block caving deposits, along with level placement, type of caving most applicable, that is gravity draw, slusher extraction or loader extraction, equipment, manpower, and cost estimation is required. Blast hole, that is sublevel stoping. This stoping method, along with its variations of sublevel stoping, vertical crater retreat, that is VCR, or end slicing, is especially suitable for ore bodies with the following characteristics. A. The rock in the ore bodies and in the host ground is reasonably competent. B. The ore zones have relatively large horizontal and vertical dimensions. C. The number and size of barren or waste zones within the ore body is minimal. When conditions are favorable for blast hole stoping, this method will produce reasonably low mining costs because it can be highly mechanized and result in good productivity per employee. Large diameter blast holes combined with modern diesel powered load haul dump equipment can usually be used to good advantage when this stoping method is employed. However, close supervision is required and effective preventive maintenance program must be enforced. Shrinkage stoping. Shrinkage stoping is the preferred method for mining steeply dipping, relatively narrow vein deposits that have competent rock for the hanging wall and footwall. This method does, however, require that 60 to 70% of the broken ore be left in the stope until mining of the stope is completed, since the broken ore pile serves as the work platform for the miners. Consequently, the total revenue from the broken ore is delayed until some time after each stope is completed. Also, ores that are susceptible to rapid oxidation upon exposure to air are generally not considered for shrinkage stoping. Drilling and blasting is difficult to mechanize in shrinkage stopes because of the inherently uneven floors and generally limited working space. In general, shrinkage stoping is labor intensive and its use is limited to relatively small producers of higher grade ore. Cut and fill stoping is an extremely versatile mining method that can be applied to both flat dipping and steeply dipping deposits under almost all types of ground conditions. It permits the mining of erratically shaped ore bodies with a minimum of dilution and a high degree of selectivity. Where ground conditions are reasonably good, an overhand extraction system is employed in which slices of ore are removed from a stope by starting at the bottom and advancing upward. Backfill is placed in the stope upon completion of each slice and serves as a working floor for extracting the succeeding slice. Where ground conditions are extremely poor in the ore body, an underhand extraction system is used in which work advances from the top of the ore body to bottom. In this case, cement is added to the backfill material to stabilize it and provide a safe route to work under. Open stoping is a mining method for extracting small erratic ore deposits encountered as veins, sills, or mantos in relatively competent rock. The method does not require a large investment in expensive mining equipment and can be used to effectively follow ore chutes on a blast round to blast round basis. In flat-lying ore zones, the footwall of the deposit is used as a working floor, while in steeply dipping deposits, timber staging is commonly used to work from, or pillars of low-grade material may be advantageously used as a working base. Sublevel caving. Sublevel caving can be applied to those large ore deposits in which the ore itself is relatively strong, but the host rock is weak enough to cave when the ore is removed. The geometry of the ore deposit influences the selection of this stoping method. A steeply dipping deposit is more satisfactory for its application than a relatively flat deposit, unless the latter has considerable thickness. Sublevel caving can often be used to extract an ore body whose limited size of rock competency preclude extraction by the block caving system and is flexible enough to be applied to irregular ore bodies of varying widths. The principal disadvantages of sublevel caving are the resulting high dilution of the ore caused by caving of waste material from the walls and the relatively high development cost to bring the mine into production. Since sublevel caving includes failure of the wall rock and overburden, surface subsidence results in locating all permanent structures outside of the area of influence. Room and pillar stoping. Tabular flat dipping ore deposits in competent rock are usually mined by room and pillar stoping methods. If the ore zone is continuous over long distances, a regular pattern of support pillars can be laid out to yield maximum recovery of the ore at the same time provide sufficient support for the hanging wall or roof. If the ore zone are erratic, random support pillars can be left in areas of waste or low-grade material. The principal advantage of room and pillar stoping is that it is readily adaptable to mechanized mining equipment, which results in high productivity at relatively low cost per ton of material extracted. For large ore bodies, a large number of working places can be easily developed so that high daily rates of production can be counted upon. Most of the mine development work is in ore, so waste extraction is kept to a minimum. The main disadvantage of room and pillar mining is that a large area of roof is continuously exposed where work activities or movement of men and supplies are carried out. Consequently, roof soundness is a primary concern for the safety of personnel, and ground support is generally a major concern, especially in rooms with high backs. Also, recirculation of ventilating air can be difficult to minimize in room and pillar mines. The principles of the rock mechanics are widely used for designing optimum pitch slope of an open cast mine. For the purpose of geotechnical investigation, the following items of work are carried out. A. Geotechnical mapping of existing mine faces and the strata around the workings. B. Geotechnical logging of available drill cores for RQD measurements. C. Collection and testing of rock sample for determining physiomechanical properties from drill hole cores and mine faces. D. Processing and analyzing of field data involving StoreOnNet analysis, complications of RMR, Q and SMR classification, computer analysis of slope stability and determining the optimum pitch slope angle. E. Redesigning pitch slopes for ultimate pit limits. Based on mapping of the exposed cases of the benches followed by lithological logging of drill core, the major rock types are exposed from hanging wall to footwall. Usually they are A. Soil and alluvium, B. Weathered pegmatite or quartz vein, C. Limestone or decomposed limestone, D. Scam including bodies of wallstonite and calcite, E. Granite. Detailed geotechnical mapping is carried out by mapping the exposed discontinuities, that is joints, bedding planes, shear zones, etc. on the scale of 1:200 and 1:1000. All the joints mapped are classified with reference to standard geomechanical system, namely NGI, RMR, classification and SMR, that is slope mass rating system. For the purpose of collection of samples, appropriate sites are selected on the working benches and future mineable benches for assessing intact rock strength of different rocks. For the systematic application of rock mass classification approach, the engineering properties such as uniaxial compressive strength, tensile strength, point load index and triaxial strength test are conducted on samples drawn CSIR from different litho units. Geotechnical investigation is then conducted with a view to steepen the existing slope in order to recover the scarce material. Slope monitoring and development of slope stabilization methods form an integral part of ongoing activity during the execution phase. The geotechnical instrumentation plan includes the following activities. A. Pitch slope monitoring. B. Facing of excavation sequences. C. Providing supports at weak zones. Slope control is intensely weathered and fractured rock masses is a matter of concern for the design of safe slope angles in the operating life of the mine. The strength properties of the soft rock or soil material and its classification in terms of stability analysis are considered to be difficult tasks. Difficulties is still encountered in rock mass strength determination in those instances where the rock material strength is very low and variable, intensely weathered, fractured, which do not fit into the standard geomechanics classification systems. The mechanism of slope failures in weak rocks are very complex and dependent on failure pathways in which certain rock units fail first, followed by subsequent failures due to redistribution of stresses from the preceding zones. The results of field observations, laboratory testing of slope forming materials and slope monitoring have led to an awareness of various mechanisms of failure and the conditions under which they are likely to occur, whereas in the real world situation, the slope failure mechanisms are much more complex and involving many other variables due to complexity within the geological materials. The testing techniques for material properties enable weak zones to be identified and their relative strengths to be determined. A good understanding of the historical data on standing slopes and failed slopes and the material in which the slopes are excavated will provide a better understanding of the failure mechanisms. Causes for slope failures. The significant parameters causing slope failures in weak rocks are: first, shear strength; second, slope height and slope angle; third, water regime; fourth, pit geometry and irregular shape of the ore body; fifth, geological discontinuities and their properties; and sixth, laterite capping on underlying formations. The relative importance of these factors is site specific. For example, shear parameters play a dominant role in soil like ground, whereas the stress regime and discontinuities replace the shear parameters in rock slopes. The role of water regime is more pronounced in cohesive soils, while the water regime as a whole has a subdued influence on rock slope stability. The mechanisms behind these failures are not well known, particularly for weak rock masses. Knowledge of the kinetic behavior of failing slopes is mostly empirical and requires further research to identify situations in which rapid failures can be expected. Rock mechanics is concerned with the application of principles of engineering mechanics to the design of the rock structures generated by mining, drilling, reservoir production, or civil construction activities such as tunnels, mining shafts, underground excavations, open pit mines, oil and gas wells, road cuts, waste repositories, and other structures built in or of rocks. Our ability to assess different failure types or its combination of dynamic process is limited with the present methodologies adopted. The problem for designers of slope is how to cope up with complexity and variability. The process of design must consider observations on rock behavior and fracture mechanics, monitoring of rock movements and stress together with an assessment of the simplified mechanisms of failure to obtain an understanding of ground behavior. Computer methods can assess the interaction of ground interacting rock failure mechanisms in complex geological conditions. Thank you very much.